fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up to
Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get involved!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go!
Oh no!
That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Imola. What a track this is. The only true track where you need the perfect balance between driver and car. It's not even funny how much time that you can drop by not being in sync through just one corner around this place. It is a true challenge in every sense of the word. This is why the iRacing Grand Prix Series has this as the halfway stage race of the championship, round 6 of 12. And it is here in Emilia-Romagna where we set our scene today. I'm Jake Sperry, joined alongside with Brad Wingard along for the ride with me for this one. And what a circuit it is. Every corner steeped in folklore, in heritage, in history. And I tell you what, this is a roller coaster ride and a half, Brad. And what are we going to be expecting today through 31 laps around this 4.91 kilometer, 17-turn behemoth?
Hey Sperry, thanks for having me. If Barcelona last week, which we were expecting to be a boring race, was probably one of the best races I've ever seen, I don't know if I'm going to be able to handle what we're going to expect today. This track is so quick in these cars, but it's so difficult, like you said. Corners like Piratella, Aqua Minerale, very unaltered, look really easy on paper, but especially with some of the changes that iRacing have brought in, it's a lot harder than it looks. And these cars have a lot of grip, but going over those curves at Variante Alta and Tamburello and Villeneuve really throw the car about. So it's going to be interesting to see how these guys go.
Absolutely, and this, of course, a circuit which has gone through many renovations over the years, especially the ones in 1995 that brought the Tamburello chicane and the Villeneuve chicane into full view. And of course, the most recent change is the exclusion of the Variante Bassa into a long straight, which made it FIA Grade 1 once again. Here's how the championships look at this stage in time. Flags are a little bit on the wrong side, but don't worry about that. Matteo Galotti in control up on top. 1,264 points at this point in time. Just a 50-point margin over Jorge Martinez, who's not necessarily been the best when it's come to this split, but he's been winning the other splits during the weeks, and that's why he's got himself up second. Tom Volstra's third, Ben Fuller fourth, and then you got Chambi Rose and Tamash Simon fifth and sixth. It's a who's who up at the top of the standings, but as we know, it's the best 8 of 12 results that count so far. And what we could maybe argue about with racing today, Brad, is that this has been an interesting season so far where people are trying to find their footing and find out what is the ideal strategy.
Yeah, absolutely is. And we're seeing that here again. Last week we had a pretty good case for the medium tyres. The softs weren't quite there at the end of the race. A lot of people deciding to run the softs in qualifying today, which is going to be very interesting indeed, because they have the ability to run the whole race distance, but you really need to look after them. So these guys are going to have a great first half of the race run. They're going to struggle again, not quite as much as last week, but that's when those guys on the medium tyre come through, and there's not many of them. I've only seen about 5 or 6 cars on the mediums today, but that strategy is going to be really interesting around here.
It's more of a 50-50 split by the looks of things. I count 4, 5. I count a lot of drivers actually thinking about switching over to the mediums. So it's going to be a case of some drivers going to be comfortable on the softs, others on the mediums. Ben Fuller is currently the fastest in qualifying on a 12.4. Reynaldo Augusto just put down a 13.7 to go 13th. But Martinez here, rushing through the second of the Ravazza 90-degree left-handers and making the run. One of the few anti-clockwise circuits in racing out there. Most of the circuits go clockwise, and Martinez, his lap will not count because that was an out lap, and now he is out of laps. So his early time, once again, puts him a little bit further down the order, P7 overall. There's Jacob Oberslack on his second lap now, making a charge through that second Ravazza, and really a track which is about narrowness and being pinpoint and precise.
Yeah, it absolutely is, especially that second Ravazza, because it leads onto this massive straight. So getting the good run out of there is everything. Yeah, these guys have DRS during the race, but if you're not there, outer corner exit, it doesn't do what it's meant to do. And we saw that last week as well. Only one DRS zone though, so you really need to maximize it this week. Cedric Bell on his lap coming through. Aqua Minerale currently in 6th place. That makes sense.
For car number 6, it certainly does. And here's the Variante Alta. Those curbs are so difficult and can really dismantle a run if you're not careful. But he abandons his lap because he didn't have time. He only had 10 seconds remaining on the clock. It's going to be the last gasp for Pablo El Suarez. Over towards the line, gets in with 3 seconds to go, but the lap doesn't count. And a handful of drivers were unable to put a time on the board. Let's go, though, to the grid. This is how everyone's going to stack up today at Imola, and it is a really interesting challenge that we've got in front of us. Ben Fuller puts the car then on pole position, a 112.463. He'll have Kazuki Umeshima for company on the front row. Tom Volstra and Danilo Sanfilippo, great qualifying there from him in what is fifth position, out there. Oliver Stepanov, has got himself up into 3rd position late. And then you've got the likes of Cedric Beal and Jorge Martinez will actually be starting 7th on the grid overall. Gennady Kalashnikov then will go from 8th with Anthony Cat 9th and Marco Sanfilippo rounding out then what will be the top 10 with Stefan Chantal in 11th and Oshin Richards actually in 12th position. It will then follow Reynaldo Augusto and Yuki Shirakawa, followed then by Adam Webb and Kent Nielsen. Jacob Swiderski and Jacob Oberslack will be on row 9 of the grid with Valentin Milanovici and Flammer Muller there rounding out the top 20. From there on, it will be Gary Larson. And I'm sorry we don't have the graphics for you with a few issues on our end. Gary Larson, but the surprise, Tamash Simon will start from 22nd on this 27-car grid. And the rest of the drivers who didn't set a time in qualifying, by iRating, they will jump up. Oyvind Horgland, Kleber Toffoli, Isak Ruska, Pablo El Suarez, and Jan Stratinsky, the last driver who did not set a time out there today. But drivers now populating the grid have themselves about 30 seconds from this point to get there. It's cold conditions, right? Well, actually, you'd say ideal conditions here. 31-degree track temp, 27 degrees air temp, mostly cloudy. Wind coming in from the south about 13 k's. So I'd say this is pretty much the best possible conditions you can have to race in iRacing. And Ben Fuller will know that, being on the pole position. Watch that run to Tamburello. That's going to be where the importance is going to be made, because this is a tough track to overtake on, and we are green and we are go for 31 laps today. Umeshima with a really good start as he goes through. Already Stepanov steps back into 3rd position, and they drive side by side through, and Fuller holds on to position. Does exactly what he needed to. We've already got drivers. Stefan Chantal is spun out in the gravel and upside down and over, rolling and out. There goes the car in yellow in trouble then in all of this, and that is a huge disaster for Kent Nielsen.
Yeah, we saw it last week. We've seen it again. Car on its roof a bit further through the race this time, but again, cars on their roof, and this track is just so narrow in that opening section. Like you said, that was a very good start by both Kazuki Umeshima and Ben Fuller, both wanting to get some retribution for last week. Ben Fuller so close to that podium. Kazuki Umeshima with that unfortunate net code with a few laps to go. So these guys are out with a vengeance.
They certainly are, and they're looking to try and settle down quickly. They will not have use of the drag reduction system, the DRS, until lap 3 of this race, but they know that overtaking is important. Stepanov currently 3rd, Volstra in 4th, Danilo Sanfilippo currently in 5th position overall in this race. But the charge is now going to be about how you can make some challenges early on, and this long straight is going to be key. 3 cars then out of the race then on the opening lap. Marco Sanfilippo, Stefan Chantal and Kent Nielsen all out of the race early, and we'll take a look at what happened on lap 1 thanks to the Virtual Racing School replay. So you can see here, this is what happened to Marco Sanfilippo. He's looking at the inside. He just gets absolutely shunted from behind by Chantal, who collides with about 2 other cars, jumping over, and Kent Nielsen trying to get around Marco Sanfilippo, just got himself back going again, just gets on the wrong side of him, and then you get that effect where tyre hits tyre and it's just going to launch you like a ramp up and over. We focus, though, on the Norwegian of Øyvind Haugland. He's made an incredible start to this race. He has jumped up, along with Tamas Simon, a great 9 places off of that start, and they're already trying to search forward. Simon's actually got through already on Yuki Shirakawa just in front. That's Shirakawa just behind now, as Tamas Simon on the mediums here. You can see Haugland on the softs, trying to find a way through, down into Ravazza. Not enough confidence there, turning and braking. That's what makes Ravazza one of the most difficult corners on the track.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It's a pretty straightforward braking zone, both metaphorically and literally, but because you're going downhill, you carry that extra speed and you can send it into there. But the problem with that is you send it into Ravazza 1, you side by side for Ravazza 2, and then you run down this main straight. It's completely compromised. Tamburello, on the other hand, perfect opportunity. Track comes to you, you get the run on the inside, and more times than not, you're ahead or on the inside for Villeneuve.
Absolutely, and you can definitely sense that as the focus still continues on this battle going on for 13. Look at that, bit of contact they're going through. This is further behind. That's Gary Larson there as they all scramble around. Isak Ruska going through, and there's contact, and Larson hard into the fence, and he's out.
Yeah, that was massive contact, both in the seat and on the car. We'll have a VRS replay right now, and
it's a question of where do you go, because you can see he gets through on the inside as Isak Ruska through Villeneuve, which is tough at the best of times, and it's not a case of Pablo Suarez doing something wrong here. You can see just poking a nose down the inside is Renato Augusto trying to get through, and effectively 3 into 2. It doesn't go. Someone's going to have to lose out, and that was Larson on the outside, who effectively becomes the worst beneficiary of all of those incidents. So Larson now finds himself in the retirement bay as Sanfilippo and Marquez, their gap about half a second out there on circuit as they continue their work trying to stay with the leading group. Ben Fuller is out to a 1.4 second lead now in this race over Kazuki Umeshima, but Danilo Sanfilippo and Jorge Martinez, they're starting to lose touch with Tom Volstra in 4th place.
yeah, it's interesting how different tracks suit different drivers. I mean, Oliver Stepanov and Ben Fuller, Kazuki Umeshima were all near that pointy end at one point of the race last week, but Ben Fuller is absolutely dominating this race in its early stages, but very easy to fall on the wayside around here as well. Thomas Simon now right on the back of this pack, still charging through the field, coming down towards Ravazza 1, and he'll get a nice big toe down into turn 1, but he's also stuck at the back of a DRS train. We talked about that last week. It's incredibly hard to pass in a DRS train, but if he's brave, ascending to Tamburello is still well on the cards, and I don't know if he's quite there though.
Not yet. He's got to get past Oshin Richards as Tamas Simon. He's got Adam Webb and then Anthony Catt in 9th position, who's holding up this train quite nicely, I'd say, at this point. And another thing to note is that Tamas Simon has the yellow-walled medium compound tyres in comparison to the red-walled softs, as a mistake from Oshin Richards coming out of the Villeneuve chicane brings then Simon to the outside through Toza. So easy to spin the car to the inside through Toza. And now the climb up to Piratella. He gets an angle to the inside for this section of road, and Oshin Richards has no chance. Tamas Simon can pass where no mortal maybe can.
Yeah, nice over and under out of Tosa, sorry, up towards Piratella. One of my favourite parts of this track. Not that it's very easy to pick one part, but very well done with that over and under, and move forward. Kazuki Umeshima is under a second. He's in DRS zone now on Ben Fuller, running down the front straight, and won't get in range of a pass this time, but he's edging closer and closer every lap. That gap was about 1.5 seconds. That time on the line it was dead on 1 second, so slowly but surely he's catching up.
Yeah, and the big difference is that those tyres are going to start slowly bleeding away that time as we focus on Jorge Martinez now in 6th position, one of the MAG Performance cars. They did have a brand new teammate join the fray in the form of Oliver Stepanov. So as we say that, Oliver Stepanov has just lost over the last couple of laps that 3rd place to Tom Volstra. So Volstra has managed to find his way through and get that pass. He did that a couple of laps ago into turn number 1. But really the key is, how do you manage the soft compared to the mediums? If you've got the medium tyre, you can just go out there and attack the race all 31 laps. The soft might be slightly different. You might have to spend a few laps trying to just stay calm and save that tyre. And if there is any tyre saver in the field that's as good as Jorge Martinez, I'd say pay me as much as you can. Here's the pass done by Volstra on Stepanov a couple laps ago. He just sends it down the inside into Tamburello turn 2, and that is pretty much your bread and butter overtake here at Imola.
Yeah, it absolutely was, and it's the way that Tamburello comes to, it's a chicane, but it's a pretty fast chicane, especially in these cars, and if you even have half a chance, ascend into there is worth it, but you do have that massive gravel trap to worry about as well. We see Simon on the charge early. He and Kat now in front of him are the 2 highest drivers on the medium. So even ignoring Simon's pace, the fact that he's got that tyre advantage towards the end of the race is really going to pay in his favour. But at this point, I don't think that's really going to be an issue. He's going to be there before tyre degradation really becomes a thing.
Adam Webb felt slightly squeezed there on the run in towards Tamburello, just letting Tamas Simon know, you don't want to go that close to me. There might be maybe not contact, but issues if you do get that close. So that could be an issue. There is Kazuki Umeshima, the former pro stripe when it came to the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series back in the McLaren MP430 era. And now as he hits the brakes, goes through the left-hander, he is now finally within range here as he looks to try and attack. We keep an eye on the dash, see whether he's got that DRS. He's within a second at this point, but once again, at the marker, he does not have the DRS, which is so very, very vital to his race, because if he wants to go and figure out an overtake, he has got to be at the marker within a second. Ben Fuller is proving that it is a very difficult challenge today to catch him when it comes to that middle sector. Stepanov still on the back though of Tom Volstra. Germany versus the Netherlands here for 3rd.
Yeah, these guys have been chopping and changing and ebbing and flowing with gaps, and it's a fight we love to see. We saw a lot of them last week. Stepanov, unfortunately, stepping on his tail a bit at the right at the death last week, cost him the race. So 4th place is not bad at the moment. These guys started 3rd and 4th and have now flipped into 4th and 3rd respectively. But he wants that, well, I mean, he wants the win, but he wants that podium at least for last week's troubles. And Tom Walstra had a mega run last week, and he wants to prove that it wasn't a one-trick sort of deal. So the fight between these two is awesome to watch.
Tom Volstra, of course, a former winner of the iRacing Grand Prix Series back when the McLaren jumped in, and this is the move from Tamas Simon as he comfortably dispatches of Anthony Katz and moves up now into 9th position, and his eyes are already set on Cedric Beale here, who does himself a 16.2 on that lap. Simon a 15.4 by comparison. Now, here's Jorge Martinez. He's through now on Danilo Sanfilippo, getting the job done. Also into Tamburello. And there you can see Adam Webb picking one off on Anthony Katz. So when it rains, it pours down into turn 2. Tamburello seeing the wrong side for Anthony Katz. 2 laps in a row. Gap down now to just 0.7 of a second here on lap 9 of 31. Ben Fuller has been reeled in. It's been a great couple of laps from Kazuki Umeshima.
Yeah, it really has, and these cars aren't a one lap and done sort of deal. Obviously, they're limited by the turbo and the recharge and output that they have on when he can attack. But that's why we love watching it. It's that strategy. It's like a game of chess. You set up for 4 or 5 laps, just sitting there closer and closer, and just close enough, and then you got 2 laps of full tilt. And if that doesn't work, you go back and you reassess your options and you reset the chessboard and go again. And he's got DRS this time, so not going to be close enough into Tamburello, although this straight is huge, but he's closer than he's been since the start of the race.
Certainly has been, and it makes you wonder about great defenses here as we take a look at the Virtual Racing School replay here, as we believe this is what's happened to Kleber to Foley. He's looking for an overtake here and trying to pick it off, as we just saw on the... that's a huge accident there into the wall on the front stretch. That is a major, major hit, and one which I'm sure Kleber will not be very happy about at all with that one. But this is something that you really do see. You do just jump up on certain machines here and there. He has the DRS wide open. He looks to try and find an angle as he went through. And it just looked like, with the way that incident happened, it wasn't necessarily contact that got him, as this is the Tamash Simon pass that we're going to see right now as he gets past Cedric Beale, straight down the inside, takes the position away. But with the Kleber to Foley incident there, really, you'd have to say, Brad, that was all about the sharp change of direction and just having no downforce because the rear wing was open.
I think it's a combination of that, and a lot of drivers the last couple of weeks have been complaining about the hitboxes on these cars as well. It was the same with the incident at Tosa. There was at least half a car width between them when they made contact, so it could definitely be that drop of aero and the change of balance of the car. There's also the hitbox issue to take into account as well, which has been plaguing drivers, A, in this race, and B, for the better part of this season. So I guess you could spin that either way you wanted, but a very strange incident indeed nonetheless.
I disagree. He wasn't close enough to make contact that way, and you can mark my words on that. There is Tamash Simon, and there is the chasing pack behind him. Anthony Catt just settling back down into a thrall of a rhythm, but there are your leading two. And of course it is just a case of Noah's Ark sim racing, a pack of two, a pack of two, and a pack of two, all out there trying to get some racing done. Lap 11 of 31, we're a third of the way through this race. Ben Fuller has led every single lap so far as they hit the brakes down the hill and through the left-hander of Ravazza, and the second left of Ravazza 2, leading onto the front stretch. DRS available again for Kazuki Umeshima, but once again, he's not going to be close enough. And this is what you find with a track like this. It is very easy to get caught in the turbulences, and as such, you can easily lose a lot of time when you hit the braking zones and go through these very tough chicanes, because it is a medium-speed corners, a lot of medium-speed corners around this circuit.
Yeah, there absolutely is, and I think that's partly why we love them. I mean, you got slow corners at Ravazza and Tosa at opposite ends of the circuit, but those medium speed corners, they are very fun to go through, but they do create that really awful turbulent air. Tamash Simon just getting the full brunt of that, trying to pass Kazashinkov into Tamburello last time by, and just couldn't get there because of the dirty air, and yeah, plagues you through the, well, pretty much everywhere from Tamburello to Ravazza.
Certainly does. Gennady Kalashnikov then holding on to place, and what a great shot this is here at the Variante Alta, and you can see just how these packs just try and dance their way through this chicane. Used to be a lot quicker through here. They slowed it way down, of course. This would have been nigh on almost flat back in the 90s and early noughties. They made the changes to make it a little bit of a longer chicane and a more of a heavier braking zone to give people a chance to maybe make a pass through that. Didn't quite happen, but again, Tamash Simon on the back of Gennady Kalashnikov here, and it is soft versus medium once again. You expect that the longer this race goes, the more it comes to Tamash Simon. Stepanov, though, has got himself through on Volstra. Volstra trying to look back again. He's not going to get there. Simon's got his pass sorted on Gennady Kalashnikov, but crucially, Volstra now back behind Oliver Stepanov once again, and that was the long way around. The road hard travelled from Ollie Stepanov.
He has a fantastic move, though. It doesn't matter how you get it done as long as it looks good while you're doing it, and that was great to watch. We got the side-by-side in the commentary box, seeing both passes at once. We'll get the replay for you now. Around the outside of Tamburello is, like you said, the road hard travel, the unconventional way, but it looks good when you do it well, and that looked fantastic.
Certainly did, and then the more conventional method there, and very much cutting across there, Tamash Simon. Lucky he didn't get a front wing full of the rear wing there in sense with Kalashnikov on under braking, but ultimately move's done. Volstra now behind Stepanov, but that move itself has costed them 1.4 seconds in this race. They now find themselves nearly 5 seconds back now of Umashima and Ben Fuller. It's very quickly becoming a race of 2 for the race win today.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and these guys are still going for it at the front. Ben Fuller still leads, no issues yet. I'm sure that he's feeling those soft tyres starting to give up now. Still doing decent lap times, a 1:15.4. Car with the pace at the moment is Thomas Simon, and he's only doing a 15.3, so not a massive gap between those guys yet, but we still have 17 and a half laps of racing to go, so going to be interesting to see how those guys can manage their tyres towards the end. And Wallstrup still following Oliver Stepanov through a Variante Alta, and he's close, and if he can get a 10th or 2 through Ravazza, I think he's going to be there, but as it stands, I don't think he's close enough for a pass into turn 1.
Not yet anyway. There is Kazuki Umashima. Now here's something we haven't really talked about today, and that is the attack mode button that is here in these Mercedes W12s. And one of the keys that you're going to be seeing here with this series, how you attack with a car like this, is going to be how you manage that attack mode. Effectively, what you're saying is, I'm going to use more of the fuel mixture and absolutely surge up my brake horsepower to go and give me those extra Ks on a straight and go and attack and try and take a move. The downside is, if you haven't put enough fuel in the car, is that you'll have to fuel save at some point in time. You can't use it all the time. You need battery as well to recharge that attack mode, but really it's the sort of weapon that is perfectly in combination, almost like the old Curzon DRS that used to be had in the early 2010s, as they're trying to make a move there. I believe that is Swiderski and Renato Augusto out there in a real scrap right now. Augusto, I think, has just come through.
He's not going to give it up easy either. That was a very late look into Villeneuve. We've seen passes there before, and they're very doable, but not when you do it that late. Now he's going to sit back and get a better run out of Tosa if he can, but if not, patiently waiting until we get back to turn 1, and this is the replay.
Certainly is. Round the outside, having to get this done. It was completed before he reached the brakes, and in fact he did have to really correct there into turn 2, because he's got to be very careful, as Volstra now has got himself back through on Oliver Stepanov, set up the run there into Tamburello, and he also now moves up and gains the place he needs. And this is what we're seeing. Drivers have to get that move done before they reach Tamburello, because there is a slew of anti-cut curves all around this place, and it is so easy to break the suspension, break the front wing, break pretty much everything on this machine if you're not careful over those curves.
Yeah, that's absolutely it. These cars are very quick, but they're also so fragile as well, so minimum you could if you don't get away with it, minimum you can really do is damage the floor, and then you're losing top speed. And in a track like this where that front straight is so vital, that's the last thing you want to do. But then yeah, there's the suspension and everything else that comes with that, and those are the ones you don't want to damage, and the risk is just not worth it.
There you can see the DRS marker board, or the marker point I should say, is on that run through into Ravazza under brakes. Umashima having a little bit of a wiggle there through the second part, gets the DRS full bore. It's at 314 kilometers an hour compared to Ben Fuller's 296, so he's got 18 Ks on the straight as we focus once again back on that battle for third and fourth. Bolstra and Stepanov really scrapping it out right now, but ultimately not really finding anything too fruitful. Worth noting, with that pass on the last lap, Tom Bolstra was the fastest driver of anybody going through, as Adam Webb puts himself through on Cedric Beale, who's starting to fall backwards.
Yeah, those softs are starting to fall away for anyone that really pushed them too early. We've just pretty much just crossed halfway. We'll get that replay for you now. Heading into turn 1. And easy as you like down the inside. DRS helps, of course, but I think that was made easier by a bit of gentlemanly yielding by Cedric Bill as well.
Last thing you want to be doing is going too wide into Tamburello, knowing that it's effectively 1.5 lines you can take through there. So the work is done again. Umeshima still trying to chase down Ben Fuller. The gap once again, 0.6 of a second then as they go in towards Tamburello. He gets as close as he has pretty much all race to the back of Ben Fuller's gearbox then of his Mercedes, but it's not working out just yet. They flick through the left and the right to the Gilles Villeneuve chicane as we focus now on the battle for third and fourth, which for a moment looked absolutely fantastic. But you can see here that Oliver Stepanov is not giving up then against Tom Volstra, and you can't blame him. He definitely wants a podium, especially after last week when he was just 20 corners away from picking up his first win of the season.
Yeah, absolutely, and Volstra's got his point to prove of, like I said, not being a one-trick pony last week. I missed a bit of the season earlier as well, but like you said, previous race winner as well, so I'm sure he wants to get back up there and prove that just because it's a new car doesn't change anything else. And these guys are fighting at it like they're on for a championship win at Abu Dhabi, and Umeshima now, I think this is the closest I've seen him all race to Ben Fuller, 1/3 of a second at the start of the straight, not at the end. So this is perfect chance for him to take the lead. And
here it comes. Straight down the inside. Ben Fuller's not going to fight it, and that is a wise decision from the American there. The Japanese sensation, Kazuki Umeshima, getting it done. Tamas Simon has caught the back of Danilo Sanfilippo, isolated as he's dropped off of Jorge Martinez, and that is exactly what Tamas Simon wanted. He is on an absolute tear at this moment. He is up 16 spots, but the lead battle is far from done because Ben Fuller has refused to let go from car 5.
yeah, it's, Ben Fuller knew that that wasn't his pass to defend. With the DRS and how close he was, it would have just ended in disaster. So best opportunity to charge the battery while Kazuki Umeshima is just in front of him. Stay within DRS range, keep in touch, and then really push for a couple of laps. Still got 13 laps to go, not a lot of time, but still plenty of time to charge that battery and go for an attack. But you don't want to leave it too late because Kazuki Umeshima in front can do the same thing. Charge his battery if he sees Fuller's dropping off and then use it to defend. So this battle for the lead is going to be absolutely incredible over the next 12 laps. But the gap behind them, it is very much a 2-horse race. Tamas Simon, though, is still on an absolute flyer. He's taking chunks out of Jorge Martinez's gap at the moment.
Certainly is. That gap now down to 1.7 seconds. Oliver Stepanov is close. There is Tamas Simon. You can see 1.7 going through and absolutely on it right now. He knows it might be a bit far to reach Stepanov and Volstra, who are matching his sort of pace. He should have been up there, didn't set the time in qualifying. And it's those small margins as well that we talk about at the end of the season. Where would Tamas Simon be if he did qualify the car properly here today at Imola? Would he be in contention for some very strong points on what is, I would say, a tough week for the iRacing and safety rating and overall points because of the 24 hours of Daytona, which is going on right now? We've got a car in the pit, and that is Flammer Muller, who is diving in then. So not really something that we've expected to see today was a pit stop. It's definitely not mandatory to do so, but Flammer Muller, I believe, is getting in, making his stop.
Yeah, he had a spin through the second and third section of Tamburello at the start of the lap that he just pitted, lap 19. So I think he's conceded defeat. His tyres are cooked and he's got some fresh rubber on just to see him to the end of the race.
Absolutely. Ben Fuller still giving chase then to Kazuki Umeshima as they flick into the left of Toza, rising up on the exit and continuing that rise over to Piratella, the tough 90-degree left-hander, which feels like so much more as you commit yourself up and over the crest of the hill and back down towards Acqua Minerale, turn and brake at the same time, through the right and back up the small flick left of 13 to the Variante Alta here, the right-left, no Bassa. This means an Italian, the first chicane as you go through. Now it's the only chicane really out there on this track. But Umeshima doing enough at the moment, but once again, you just have to worry about patience. Look behind down the field, though. I reckon Tamas Shimon will also have a run this lap. He is all over the back of one Mr. Jorge Martinez.
Yeah, he's been going at a rate of knots this lap. I've been watching him on the side of that lead battle. I don't know which is more impressive, but Simon is just on something else. I think he might have accidentally put the rocket fuel in his car this morning instead of the race fuel, and we've got the DRS now. This is going to not... I don't think this will really be contested. Martinez has absolutely nothing, and I think that was a nice early lift from him as well, because that was as easy as you like into turn one.
Plain and simple there from Tamas Shimon. He moves into the top 5 for the first time in this race. He has been going like a bat out of hell at this moment, and you have to say that he has deserved every overtake so far today in this one. Back though to the leaders, and Ben Fuller has been doing well. In fact, we'll look at a virtual race replay first and foremost. This is what's happened to Reynaldo Augusto out there coming down the hill in towards Acqua Minerale. Goes through the first part okay, through the second he was losing the back end there on entry, and then as he tries to put the power back down again, he just loses the rear end, and that, you have to say, is a very, very cheap accident in terms of that one, because he found that barrier, which I probably think has never been grazed in all of sim racing.
Yeah, it's so easy to do though, well, very car specific, but that little crest as you come off the curb, that's a really big change in the car's balance, and in a car that has as much power as this, if you get that slightly wrong, the downforce isn't quite there, you have that sort of accident. But yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a car hit that part of the wall before, so very, very weird accident, very unfortunate accident inside 10 laps to go, but that little crest and that change in the curb is still so easy to do.
Sim racing always has a first, and some of these firsts that we certainly do see. You can see how much the dirty air effect hurts over Piratella for Ben Fuller. Was right up underneath at Tosa, and suddenly the gap comes back to about 3 car lengths here as he now crests up the hill towards the Variante Alta once again with 9 laps to go. It'll be 8 at the line as they flick on through and try and put the power down again. Fuller knows that this is going to be a tough sector to try and get correct, as he tries to put himself into the best possible position against Kazuki Umeshima. And what you could definitely say as well about this battle is between generations old and new. Umeshima of the previous breed of sim racing drivers who came up in the era of Martin Kroenke, of Gregor Hutu, of the likes of Alexius Yakala and Olli Pakala. Searching all over the back is Ben Fuller. He's not in line to get it done here at Tamburello. Ben Fuller is new school. He brought himself up through the last couple of years to become one of the most premier open wheel sim racers in the world today. He's not close enough just yet as he goes into Tosa, but my goodness, is he knocking on that door and making himself heard.
Yeah, he absolutely is. Being able to maintain this gap, give or take a tenth through this lap, is going to be absolutely crucial for him. Like you said, that dirty air around Piratella still having some effect. Doesn't it seem to be as bad as last lap though? And he's still hovering around that 2/10. So if he can get a good run out of Variante Alta Town towards Ravazza, I think position 1 for Ben Fuller into turn 1 is definitely on the cards. But he's lost a bit of time through the chicane. He's out to half a second now, which is exactly the opposite of what he wanted to do.
But they also have lap traffic to deal with between now and the end of this race. Jan Stratinsky, Pablo Suarez, maybe Valentin Milanovici as well. There is Pablo Suarez, and that could be massive between now and the end of this race, that they'll have to try and navigate through some cars to make sure that they get around safely. We talk about this track being narrow. It gets narrower when you have to lap some vehicles.
Yeah, and if you're Kazuki Umeshima, you think please be there at Ravazza, because then obviously he'll get the DRS down the straight, which will help him defend from Ben Fuller. But Ben Fuller's thinking please happen at somewhere like Piratella or Variante Alta, just to slow Kazuki Umeshima down just that little bit before the DRS zone. And again, Ben Fuller is quick in the first half of this lap, pulls the gap back, although marginally. But then it's through this section and through Variante Alta where Kazuki Umeshima is just that little bit stronger and can eke out a big enough gap to help him defend turn 1.
and now the tyres are starting to go. They've dropped about 3 or 4 tenths of a second. I'd say right now it's not over either for the battle for third, fourth, and I will say fifth tentatively. Tamas Simon took 8 tenths of a second out of Tom Volsch that last time by. He's 7 seconds back with about 7, now soon to be 6 laps to go. This race far from over in every single stage. There is Danilo Sanfilippo back there in 7th. He's also in a battle right now because Gennady Kalashnikov's suddenly on the back, which screams to me, Virtual Racing School replay, what happened to Danilo? Did he have a little moment coming up over Piratella through the left-hander? Answer is he gets himself over nice and calm down the hill towards Acqua Minerale, and as he goes through, that's just a case of a tyre on the grass under braking and having to extend and take the slowdown.
Yeah, and that's definitely the preferred option, because if you hit the grass with brakes there, you're going to spin and probably send yourself into the fence. So coming off the brakes, rolling through the inside of that turn 13 and taking the slowdown is probably the much safer option, because he's still there or thereabouts. Lost a bit of time, but he's still in this race.
Certainly is. There is Volstra and Stepanov out there on track. They continue their scrap. Stepanov staying patient then at this moment in time. He knows that Tom Volstra just in front will definitely want to try and pick up some very, very strong points. A podium would serve him wonders over the course of the championship efforts that we have seen so far. Don't count your chickens just yet. It's still not over in terms of this race, but you can see Ollie Stepanov is all over the back of car number 4. He might have a really good chance here to get it through on the inside. 3 tenths of a second as they run towards the line, and here's where the power comes into play. Moves to the right-hand side, and will get it done before they reach the braking zone. Wonderfully done, and that move then puts Ollie Stepanov back on the podium again, and there's Danilo Sanfilippo in trouble again.
Yeah, that was at Ravazza this time. I don't know what's happening. He's gone to defend the outside or let drivers through on the inside and just catches the grass at the exit of Ravazza 1 and nearly came together with Cedric Bill as well on the second apex.
I think he just got scared. Plain and simple, I think he just got scared of Adam Webb, who dived down the inside, thought he had a shot, and then effectively Danilo Sanfilippo outbroke himself and left himself in a very vulnerable position, so not ideal at all. Now look at this, Kazuki Umeshima has really used the traffic to his advantage. He's been picking and choosing his moments, and for the first time in this race, he has broken a second on Ben Fuller, who does not have DRS on this straight, and all of a sudden, this race for car number 1 has just got exponentially harder.
Yeah, it definitely has, and being able to, catch someone is good enough, but like we've seen, passing them is going to be something else with 4 laps to go. It's just hovering around that second mark. If he can get it down, then great, but he's going to need 2 or 3 laps to get really in contention with that DRS into turn 1, and I think he might be out of time because he's been struggling to get through with DRS when he was 2 or 3 tenths of a second behind heading to Acqua Minerale. He's now 1.2 seconds, and these tyres have absolutely seen the best of their life. So unless something happens to Kazuki Umeshima, I don't think Ben Fuller is going to get through.
And there is Danilo Sanfilippo. I think his tyres have been absolutely cooked as he dived into the pits, got himself a fresh new set of boots, and is off and away again. Out there, Tom Volstra, though, has dropped a second of his own in comparison to Oliver Stepanov, who's just turned the wick up when he's needed to the most. And really, for Tom Volstra, it has been a great performance, and there is no DRS there. Absolutely another one we can see, and that gap will just continue to stretch out, and it feels like now they're starting to hit a cliff. Those who have saved versus those who haven't. Gennady Kalashnikov's tyres look a little bit second-hand as Adam Webb starts to close in.
Yeah, they absolutely are, and it's interesting to see how drivers on the same soft tyre are either struggling who are up the front of the field or are really just starting to collapse. It's like an English batting lineup here, tail end of Hobart, and Adam Webb is one of those drivers that have looked after his tyres because he's been doing well, and now he's attacking Gennady Kolishnikov into Vilna. Probably not the best opportunity, but he's making himself known.
I knew you were cheap. I didn't know you were that cheap in terms of that. Adam Webb here trying to keep himself in play with Gennady Kalashnikov up the hill through towards Piratella, and the work that is being done has been nothing short of fantastic so far in this race. But with the last handful of laps left, Kalashnikov really struggling. You can see it off the exit there. No drive, and Adam Webb can breeze on through. That is as easy as it will come. Kalashnikov's tyres are gone.
Yeah, they're...
You can hear it. It's a blown tyre. You can hear it. It's absolutely flapping about as he goes through, dealing with a puncture as he goes through, struggling for grip. Surely he'll have to come in, unless it's inside the final 4 laps, which I believe it is, where that puncture happens. He can limp that car home. He will get the black and orange mechanical flag for it.
It's not just a matter of him being able to limp at home because of, you know, these corners are fast, and for a lot of them they kind of one line through the chicanes. But if he's got someone, say, I don't know, Cedric Bill just behind him, if he has a really unfortunate spin, the risk of him taking someone like that out are quite high depending on what the corner is. I mean, it's still 4 seconds, so you would hope that Cedric Bill has enough time to react. But if it's a bad accident and he bounces back out on track, then he's the only person he can blame for that.
We're coming up to the final lap of this race. Kazuki Umeshima is about to put Valentin Milanovici a lap down. There's Barney the flagman, always diligent as he is, as he performs 30,000 different races over the course of a certain day, as he finds himself through and driving through the opening section. Ben Fuller, I think, will have to accept second place, but it's not over for fourth. Tamas Shimon, a 15.5 that last time by, took another second out of Tom Volstra. If Volstra's tyres are gone or do go on this final lap, then there is a chance for Tamas Shimon to pick up one more place between now and the end of this one. It has been a brutal race in terms of tyres and strategy that's gone through. It's been very hard fought for. It makes you wonder here with Tamas Shimon, how close would he have been if he did have himself the opportunities to qualify that car absolutely the way he did. He's driven fantastically. Ultimately, though, Tom Volstra is doing just about enough. There is Kazuki Umeshima, though, who has absolutely proven again that he is money when it comes to this Mercedes W12. And the way that he has driven this one has said that the new guard can wait, because the old guard are about to resurge. Kazuki Umeshima will drive to the line. He'll take the race at halfway at Imola. He knows that was a massive, massive result in terms of any title aspirations. Ben Fuller will take second, and redemption for last week, Oliver Stepanov will take the final spot on the podium in what was a truly important race for his ego.
Yeah, absolutely was. It was very well driven. He picked his moments, and a lot of drivers out there, it's still not done though for a lot of these guys. 12th and 13th, Richards and Shirakawa, very close. 4/10 is where you'd want to be for a pass into turn one, but a pass into turn one means nothing now. So this is going to be in the run of all runs out of Ravazza to take that spot away. But I think the gap's way too big for that. So it's going to be close, but not enough.
Nope, line's going to come up now, and Oshin Richards is going to hold on against Yuki Shirakawa in what was a very, very important move coming to the end of that race. What an important race that was in terms of picking and choosing the moment. Those patient style of races we don't often see, but it is car number 5, Kazuki Umeshima, who manages to pick up the victory in 38 minutes and 58 seconds and wins by a margin of 3.8 seconds over Ben Fuller in second. Oliver Stepanov will take third place overall, finishing out ahead of Tom Volstra, whose tyres faded late on. And Tamas Shimon, after starting 22nd on the grid, not setting a time in qualifying, still manages to pick up a top 5 on a set of medium tyres. Jorge Martinez finishes in 6th, with Adam Webb in 7th, just ahead of Gennady Kalashnikov, whose tyres faded as well very late on. Cedric Beal getting 9th place ahead of Anthony Catt, who rounded out the top 10. Øyvind Haugland, the Norwegian, finishes in 11th ahead of Oshin Richards, who was just able to pit Yuki Shirakawa over to the line, with Jacob Oberslack and Isak Ruska there in 14th and 15th. Jacob Swiderski finished 16th, and with an extra stop, Danilo Sanfilippo became the last finisher on the leading lap. 17th position for him is a day he would rather forget. But those drivers a lap down or worse include Valentin Milanovici, Jan Stratinsky, and Pablo El Suarez. We saw a pit stop for Flammer Muller, who had himself an incident with the, I would say, the anti-cut curbs through Tamburello, and then the drivers out of the race. Reynaldo Augusto in the wall coming out of Acqua Minerale, Claver Toffoli on the front stretch, Gary Larson off at Tosa, and then Kent Nielsen, Marco Sanfilippo, and Stefan Chantal all collecting each other on the opening lap of the race. But what you can definitely say is what an incredible race it has been. And for the 7th round, we head to Tamas Simon's territory. It's the Hungaroring for round number 7, and a track which holds a lot of similarities, Brad, if you'd say this is the clockwise counterpart to Imola.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Got a very fast opening and relatively fast closing section, but that middle section is just so difficult to pass, and I'm sure we'll see some fantastic sends anyway, but it's dubbed the Monaco without the buildings, and that middle section is an absolute testament to that. So it's going to be interesting to see how that race pans out next week.
It certainly will, and the only place you can catch it is with us at SimSpeed TV. If you haven't had the chance to already, you can like, you can share, and you can subscribe for more amazing content brought to you by the team here. But a massive thanks has to get it done to us. Firstly, to the iRacing Open Wheel community who bring us these brilliant broadcast races here and give us the opportunity to talk over these wonderful Mercedes W12 Hybrid E performances. On top of that, massive thanks, of course, to the Virtual Racing School who have been on the replays for us this season. From Brad Wingard, who's been alongside me, from Jay Kennedy, who's been on the cameras. My name's been Jake Sperry, but it has been a day of resurgence. Kazuki Umeshima back to the top of the mountain and showing everybody how it's done. And now you'd start to think, and now you'd start to wonder, how crucial is this run-in going to be this season? 5 drivers all have a very legitimate shot of winning this championship, but it's not going to be as easy as blink and you'll win it. We'll see you at the Hungaroring 1 week from today as this championship takes another dramatic turn.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh
him.
my god! Oh, big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys I want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no, that's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my god.
No!